The enemy brought their legendary apex predator. The Space Marines didn't give a F. If you are not a heretic, then declare your city of origin. Leave a comment, a like, and subscribe to the Emperor's Glory. At the conclusion, rate this tale from 0 to 10. The Emperor protects. The Vorthok's primary intelligence nodule pulsed with happy satisfaction as it observed the battlefield display. Across the frozen wastes of Tertius VII, the combined Xenos defense line was crumbling under their relentless assault. The fox-like Vulpans had already retreated behind their energy barriers, their proud tails tucked low in sad defeat. The massive Taurian defenders, usually unbreakable as their bovine ancestors, were falling back step by bloody step. "Phase 1 complete, Hive Commander," hissed the tactical coordinator, its serpentine form coiled around the command throne. "The prey species flee before our standard forces. Shall we deploy the Devourer?" The Vorthak's scaled lips curled in what passed for a confident smile among the reptilian race. The Devourer, their greatest weapon, forged in the gene forges of their homeworld over centuries of careful evolution and cybernetic enhancement. A creature of living nightmare that had broken the backs of 17 different species across 9 star systems. "Not yet," the Hive Commander rasped. "Intelligence reports indicate the humans have reinforced this sector. I wish to observe these, what do they call themselves? Space Marines?" The coordinator's thermal pits flared with confusion. "The Deathworlders? Surely you do not consider them a threat worthy of the Devourer's attention? Our preliminary scans show they possess no special technology, no psychic abilities, no natural weapons. They are merely large mammals." Through the tactical display, they watched as human dropships screamed through the atmosphere, their brutal, angular design, unlike the graceful curves favored by most galactic species. The ships didn't land so much as crash in controlled fashion, disgorging armored figures that stood a full head taller than even the impressive Taurians. Captain Marcus Thorne of the 3rd Company Salamanders stepped off the assault ramp into the howling wind of Tertius VII, his power armor's sensors immediately cataloging the tactical situation. Behind him, 24 battle brothers emerged in perfect formation, their green and black plate gleaming despite the ashfall from the planet's volcanic activity. "Brother Sergeant Corvin," Thorne voxed to his second-in-command, "situation report. Multiple Xenospecies have formed a defensive alliance, Captain. The Serpentine Vorthak are the primary aggressors. Our allies have established a fortified line approximately 3 kilometers north, but they're taking heavy casualties." Thorne nodded, maglocking his Stormbolter to his thigh. Around them, alien refugees streamed past, graceful avians with their iridescent feathers dulled by fear. Canid pack leaders carrying wounded pups, even a few of the scholarly cephalopods dragging their wounded behind them on repulsor sleds. A Vulcan commander approached, his fox-like features grim. "Human Captain, I am Pack Leader Fenris. We are grateful for your assistance, but perhaps you should establish your position further back. The Vorthak have been probing our lines with increasingly dangerous bioconstructs." "How dangerous?" Thorne asked, his helmet's external speakers crackling slightly. Fenris's ears flattened against his skull. "The last one took concentrated fire from 6 plasma cannons to bring down. We lost 30 warriors in the process." "I see." Thorne turned to his squad leaders. Brothers, it seems our new allies are concerned for our safety. The Space Marines exchanged glances, and what might have been chuckles echoed through their private Vox channel. Brother Gavril, the squad's heavy weapons specialist, hefted his multi-melta with casual ease. "Captain, shall we establish the forward position as planned?" "Indeed, brother. Pack Leader Fenris, we appreciate your concern, but we'll be taking point." The Vulpan's amber eyes widened. "Point? But that means you'll be the first target of whatever they deploy against us." "That's the idea," Thorn replied simply. 3 hours later, the Vorthok Hive commander watched with growing interest as the human forces established what could generously be called defensive positions. Where other species built elaborate bunker networks and interlocking fields of fire, the humans had simply dug shallow trenches and set up what appeared to be crude altars decorated with skulls and burning incense. "They are praying?" the tactical coordinator hissed in disbelief. "So it would seem," the Hive commander mused. "Deploy probe construct 7 Alpha. Let us see how these Deathworlders react to a genuine threat." The probe was a relatively minor creation, merely 12 feet tall, armored in bioceramic plates, equipped with molecular acid projectors and powered by a fusion heart that could overload on command. It scuttled across no man's land on 8 segmented legs, its sensor clusters tracking the human positions. The first human to spot it was Brother Mikael, whose enhanced eyesight picked up the creature's thermal signature through the ash storm. He activated his Vox without urgency. "Contact. Single bioconstruct, bearing 270, range 400 meters. Visual confirmed," Thorn responded. "Rules of engagement. Capture if possible, destroy if necessary." The Vulpan observers monitoring human communications frequencies, surprised, nearly choked on their atmospheric recyclers. Capture? The probe construct had been specifically designed to require anti-tank weaponry to neutralize. Brother Corvin stood up in his trench, calmly shouldering his bolt rifle. "I'll take it." The probe construct detected the movement and immediately accelerated, its acid projectors spinning up to operational temperature. At 200 meters, it opened fire, streams of molecular acid that could eat through battleship armor hissing through the air. Corvin sidestepped the attack with fluid grace, his power armor servo motors barely whining with the effort. At 100 meters, he fired a single bolt round. The mass-reactive tip punched through the creature's frontal armor, the micro-explosive detonating inside its thoracic cavity. The probe construct stumbled, ichor streaming from the wound, but continued its charge. "Tough little bastard," Corvin observed conversationally, firing again. The second shot took off one of the creature's legs. The third destroyed its primary sensor cluster. The fourth and final shot punched into its fusion heart housing, causing a catastrophic overload. The explosion lit up the battlefield, the shockwave rattling equipment across both defensive lines. When the smoke cleared, a smoking crater marked where the probe construct had died, with Brother Corvin still standing calmly in his firing position, already reloading. "Target neutralized," he reported. "Minimal ammunition expenditure." Across the Allied defensive line, absolute silence reigned. The Taurians, whose own anti-armor teams would have required careful positioning and concentrated fire to achieve the same result, stared in mute shock. The cephalopods began frantically calculating the kinetic and explosive values they had just witnessed. Pack Leader Fenris's voice cracked slightly as he activated his communicator. "Human Captain? Was that normal?" "Standard engagement protocol for unknown contacts," Thorne replied matter-of-factly. Brother Corvin, adequate shooting. Brother Gavril, begin perimeter sweep for additional contacts. In the Vorthak Command Center, the tactical coordinator's serpentine form had gone rigid with surprise. Hive Commander, the probe construct readings showed complete structural failure in under 30 seconds. Yes, the Hive Commander hissed slowly. Most interesting. Deploy construct sequence 12 through 16.
I want to see their response to multiple targets. 5 more bioconstructs scuttled across the battlefield, each one a different design paradigm. Acid spitters, plasma projectors, molecular disruptors, kinetic impactors, and one experimental psyker hunter equipped with null field generators. The Space Marines received the contact reports with characteristic calm. Multiple contacts, various configurations, Brother McHale reported. Engagement range in 90 seconds. Understood, Thorne replied, then switched to company frequency. All squads, live fire exercise, standard protocols. For the Emperor and Vulcan. For the Emperor and Vulcan, came the chorus response. What followed was not so much a battle as a clinical demonstration. The Space Marines moved with practiced efficiency, each brother engaging targets with the confident competence of warriors who had trained for such scenarios thousands of times. Bolt rounds found weak points with surgical precision. Melta charges turned bioconstructs into expanding clouds of superheated vapor. Chain swords roared to life when the enemy closed to melee range. In less than 5 minutes, all 5 constructs lay in smoking ruins. The Space Marines had not moved from their positions, had not called for support, had not even elevated their threat assessment level. Brother Gavril's voice carried a note of sarcastic disappointment. Captain, recommend we advance the defensive line. Current position offers insufficient challenge for training purposes. The Allied forces listened to this exchange in stunned disbelief. Insufficient challenge? The bioconstructs that had been terrorizing the defense line for weeks were dismissed as inadequate training targets? The Hive Commander's thermal pits flared with genuine interest now. Most impressive. These Deathworlders show promise. Coordinator, prepare the Devourer for deployment. Sir, surely the situation does not warrant. The situation warrants my personal interest, the Hive Commander cut him off. I have not encountered worthy prey in 7 campaigns. These humans, they may prove entertaining. The tactical coordinator's scales rippled with unease. The Devourer had not been deployed against anything less than a full armored division in over 3 years. Using it against a single company of infantry seemed excessive, even by Vorthok standards. But orders were orders. Deep within the Vorthok bioship, containment seals began to disengage. Warning klaxons echoed through the corridors as technician-cast reptilians scrambled to complete final preparations. In the deployment bay, something ancient and terrible stirred to wakefulness. The Devourer had been created for one purpose: to break the morale of enemy forces so completely that surrender became preferable to facing it in combat. It stood 15 feet tall, its form a horrific amalgamation of evolved biology and technological enhancement. Acid glands supplemented molecular disruptors, regenerative capabilities backed up by redundant organ systems, neural dampeners that could shut down higher brain functions through proximity alone. It had, confident, never been defeated in single combat. Never even been seriously injured. Captain Thorne felt the change before his instruments registered it. A subtle shift in the air pressure, a wrongness that set his enhanced senses on edge. Around him, his battle brothers were experiencing similar reactions. Hands moving unconsciously to weapons, postures shifting to combat readiness. "Something's coming," he voxed to his surgeons. "Something big." The first sign was the screaming. Not human screaming, but the high-pitched cries of the avian refugees as they took flight in mass, their normally graceful formations breaking apart in fearful panic. Then the canid pack leaders began howling, a sound that spoke of fearful terror hard-coded into genetic memory. Even the normally stolid Taurians were backing away from the forward positions, their massive forms trembling despite their size advantage. "Contact," Brother McHale reported, his voice tight with concentration. "Single, large bioform, range 800 meters in closing. Captain, the machine spirits are agitated." Thorne frowned within his helmet. Machine spirits were notoriously difficult to disturb. If the artificial intelligences within their equipment were reacting, whatever was approaching represented a genuine threat. "All squads, combat spacing, prepare for—" The transmission cut off as the Devourer crested the ridgeline, its form silhouetted against the ash-darkened sky. Even through their enhanced visual systems and sensor packages, the Space Marines found themselves surprised, struggling to process what they were seeing. The creature seemed to bend light around itself, creating optical distortions that made accurate targeting nearly impossible. Across the Allied defensive line, absolute panic set in. Weapons fire erupted randomly as soldiers fired at shadows and phantoms. Several cephalopod gun crews simply abandoned their positions entirely, their rational minds fearful, overwhelmed by primal terror. But in the human positions, something different was happening. Brother Corvin lowered his rifle slightly, studying the approaching creature with calm interest. "Captain, preliminary assessment. Hostile bioconstruct. Heavy configuration. Probable close combat specialist based on limb structure." "Confirmed," came Brother Gavril's voice. "Sensor readings indicate significant electromagnetic interference. Likely defensive countermeasures. Recommend coordinated fire at maximum range." "Negative," Thorne replied, his voice carrying an excited, odd note of satisfaction. "Let it come closer." The Vorthak Hive commander watched the display with excited, growing excitement. Finally, prey worthy of the Devourer's attention. But something was wrong with the readings. Where other species showed the expected fear responses, elevated heart rates, stress hormone spikes, tactical disintegration, the humans showed, surprised, nothing. "Coordinator, verify biometric readings from the human positions." "Confirmed, sir. Heart rate steady." "Stress indicators within normal parameters." "Sir, they appear to be excited?" The Devourer closed to 400 meters, its presence now strong enough to trigger involuntary fear responses in most galactic species. The neural dampeners were beginning to take effect, creating a field of supernatural dread that should have sent the humans fleeing. Instead, Captain Thorne stepped out of his trench entirely. "Brothers," he announced over the company frequency, "we are honored this day. The enemy has seen fit to send us a champion worthy of our attention." A chorus of acknowledgments echoed back, and to the fearful horror of the watching aliens, the Space Marines began to advance. The Devourer's sensory organs detected the approaching humans and processed the data with growing confusion. Where were the fear pheromones, the stress indicators? The inevitable breakdown of unit cohesion that its presence always triggered? Instead, it detected something else entirely, something its creators had never programmed it to recognize. Joy! The Vorthan Coalition fleet had been holding position for 3 standard hours when the, surprised, impossible happened. Every sensor array across 17 different alien species screamed the same warning. Something was coming through the void. Something massive. Captain Zenthka of the Felinian Star Hunters watched his tactical display with growing unease. The enemy signature was unlike anything in their databases. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a weapon. The energy readings suggested something alive, but the size indicators had to be malfunctioning. "Communications, patch me through to the human vessel," he ordered, his tail twitching with nervous energy. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the scarred face of Captain Torres. Still wearing that unsettling human expression they called a smile. Behind him, the bridge of the human ship buzzed with activity that would have seemed chaotic to any other species, but the Felinians had learned to recognize the strange efficiency in human madness. "Captain Torres, our sensors are detecting an unprecedented signature approaching from the enemy fleet. The energy readings suggest a bioform of impossible proportions. Our tactical computers estimate it could be larger than a cruiser." Torres leaned back in his chair, that smile widening. "Yeah, we're picking it up too. Magnificent bastard, isn't it? Intelligence briefings called it the Draconis Rex. Apparently, the reptilians have been breeding this beauty for about 3 centuries, specifically to hunt down coalition fleets." Zenthka's ears flattened against his skull. "Breeding? Captain, with respect to your species' legendary optimism." Perhaps this would be an appropriate time to call for reinforcements from your Imperial Navy? The human actually laughed. The sound sent fearful, uncomfortable ripples through the assembled alien commanders listening on the channel. There was something in human laughter that triggered fearful, ancient prey responses across multiple species. Reinforcements? Captain, the 3rd company of the Blood Ravens just finished their prayers and ammunition blessing. They've been looking for something interesting to kill for weeks now. This is what we humans call confident, perfect timing. From the bovine agricultural ships came the deep, rumbling voice of Counselor Morhan. "Serious. Captain Torres, our calculations suggest this creature has enough biomass to survive multiple direct hits from our heaviest plasma cannons. The logical response would be to retreat and regroup." "Retreat?" Torres stood up, and for the first time since meeting these humans, the assembled aliens saw something that chilled them. The humans' eyes had changed. There was still intelligence there, still that impossible friendliness, but underneath lay something that belonged on a fearful death world. "Counselor, I appreciate the tactical advice, but you're thinking about this all wrong. You're asking how we survive fighting this thing. We're asking how it survives fighting us." The creature burst from the enemy formation like a fearful nightmare given form. Even through the filtered displays, its presence dominated local space. Organic armor plating that could deflect starship weapons. Bioplasma projectors that had evolved over millennia to burn through metal and energy shields. Tentacles longer than most fighter craft, tipped with claws that could rend hull plating. Most terrifyingly, it was intelligent. Ancient beyond measure. Bred for war and carrying the accumulated hunting knowledge of its species. This wasn't just a weapon, it was a Pax predation incarnate. "All coalition ships maintain formation and prepare for evasive maneuvers," Captain Zenthka broadcast. "Concentrate fire on the creature's approach vector." "Negative, Coalition Command," came Torres' voice, now carrying a note that made every alien on the channel instinctively want to find somewhere safe to hide. "Third Company is launching. All ships maintain current positions and observe." Through the viewports of dozens of alien vessels, the Coalition watched something that would be talked about in their academies for generations to come. The human ship's launch bays opened, and out came not the expected fighter squadrons or heavy bombers. 27 figures in powered armor launched directly into the void. No ships, no additional support craft, just 27 humans in metal suits, flying straight toward a creature that ancient reptilian legends claimed could devour entire fleets. "By the star-touched," whispered Commander Featherstrike of the Avian Science Collective. "They're not even using ships. They're just, surprised, flying at it." Torres' voice crackled over the communications array. "Third Company, this is Base Command. Target confirmed as the legendary Draconis Rex. You are weapons-free. Make the Emperor proud." The response came from 27 different voices, harmonizing in a way that shouldn't have been possible across vacuum-suited communications. "For the Emperor and the glory of mankind!" What followed defied every tactical manual in Coalition space. The creature, sensing the approaching humans, turned its attention from the larger ships to these tiny figures. Bioplasma bursts that could cripple frigates lanced out toward the Space Marines. The humans didn't dodge. They flew straight through the energy blasts, their armor somehow absorbing or deflecting impacts that should have vaporized them. When the creature's massive tentacles swept out to crush them, they didn't retreat. They grabbed onto the tentacles and began climbing. "Impossible," breathed the aquatic representative. "The gravitational forces alone should tear them apart. The radiation from those bioplasma organs should cook them alive inside their suits." "Captain Torres," Zenthka managed, "your soldiers appear to be... Are they trying to reach the creature's head?" "Standard boarding action," Torres replied casually, as if watching humans climb onto space monsters was routine. "Brother Sergeant Ramirez, your boarding assessment." A new voice, rougher and somehow more intimidating than Torres, came through the channel. "Hostile bioform shows excellent handholds, Captain. Armor plating provides adequate cover for approach to primary cortex chamber. Recommend immediate boarding action." "Boarding action?" The canine pack leader's voice went up, surprised several octaves. "Captain, that creature has enough mass to crush a space station." "Yeah," Torres agreed. "Playful to watch it try." The battle that followed broke several fundamental laws of physics and all known principles of military engagement. The creature thrashed through space, trying to dislodge the humans crawling across its hide like parasites. Each movement generated enough force to destroy conventional boarding parties. The humans held on and kept climbing. When the creature rolled, attempting to crush them against its own armored back, they simply shifted position and continued advancing. When it discharged massive electrical pulses designed to fry any electronics within range, their suits somehow absorbed the energy and kept functioning. But what truly horrified the watching aliens was the running commentary coming from the Space Marines. "Brother Kowalski, you missed that nerve cluster by half a meter. Brother Martinez got his on the first try. My chainsaw is still warming up, brothers. This beast has skin thicker than the armor plating on my homeworld. Remember, we need to keep it alive long enough for proper examination. The tech priests will want samples. Alive." This from the Urson Defender cast. You want to keep that thing alive? Brother Sergeant Ramirez's voice carried what the aliens were beginning to recognize as distinctly human, playful amusement. Standard protocol for unknown bioforms, Defender Captain. How else are we supposed to learn how to kill bigger ones? The creature's death scream, when it finally came, could be heard across multiple dimensions of space-time. The humans had reached something vital inside its massive head, and whatever they did there ended millions of years of evolutionary perfection in roughly 17 minutes. As the massive corpse began drifting through space, the Coalition fleet received one final transmission from the Space Marines. Base Command, this is 3rd Company, target neutralized, requesting pickup and immediate deployment of Tech Priest examination teams, also requesting permission to take trophy skulls. In the stunned silence that followed, Captain Torres's voice returned to the channel, carrying that same casual friendliness that had marked the entire engagement. Coalition Command, this is Captain Torres. Threat eliminated. The boys are asking if anyone wants to examine the corpse before we process it for useful materials. They're particularly excited about the bioplasma organs. Apparently, they give off excellent light for reading during long deployments. Every alien commander stared at their displays, trying to process what they'd witnessed. In less than 20 minutes, humans had boarded and killed something that should have been physically impossible for them to even survive approaching. More disturbing was the growing realization that this hadn't been desperation or impossible luck. This had been fearful. Captain Torres, Xanthka finally managed, how many creatures like that could your people face before it became concerning? The pause that followed lasted just long enough for every alien to remember that humans came from a death world where creatures like this would be considered local wildlife. Well, Torres said thoughtfully, that depends. Are we talking about the same creature? Or are they allowed to evolve between encounters? Because if they're allowed to evolve, it gets interesting. The Umbral Reaper circled them like a cat toying with mice, its 6 eyes gleaming with malevolent intelligence. Blood dripped from wounds that should have killed any normal creature, yet it moved with predatory grace. "Brother Cassius, ammunition count?" Marcus asked calmly, reloading his bolt pistol with practiced efficiency. 12 rounds remaining, Brother Sergeant. Brother Thaddeus. 8 rounds plus grenades. The Xenos Coalition forces watched in horror from their defensive positions. The Kethvar commander's mandibles clicked frantically. They speak of ammunition while facing certain death? These humans are insane! Captain Velthar, the aquatic Murdon, shook his head, water dripping from his gills. No, friend. Watch their movements. They're calculating. The Reaper lunged again, claws raking across Marcus's pauldron, sending sparks flying. Instead of retreating, Marcus grabbed the creature's arm and yanked it forward, driving his combat knife deep into its shoulder joint. The beast shrieked and backhanded him across the battlefield. Marcus rolled, came up spitting blood, and grinned. Now that's more like it. "Brother Sergeant," Cassius called out, "I believe I've identified a pattern in its attack sequence." "Enlighten us, brother." "It favors its left flank after a failed strike, compensation for damaged musculature from our previous engagement." Thaddeus nodded grimly. "I can provide distraction. My grenades should—" "Negative." Marcus stood, wiping blood from his split lip. We end this the proper way, for the honor of the chapter and our new allies. The Umbral Reaper had killed thousands of warriors across dozens of worlds. It had been specifically engineered by the Scran hegemony to be the perfect soldier killer. Faster than Kethvar hunters, stronger than Murdon titans, more cunning than avian tacticians. It had never faced space marines. Marcus began walking toward the creature, his damaged armor servos whining with each step. "You want to know what makes humanity different?" he called out to the watching Xenos. "It's not our weapons or our armor." The Reaper crouched, preparing for another killing leap. "It's not our training or our faith." The creature's muscles bunched, death written in every line of its alien form. "It's that when we decide something dies, we don't stop until it's dead, no matter the cost." The Umbral Reaper launched itself through the air, claws extended, mouth agape to reveal rows of serrated teeth. At the last second, Marcus dropped to one knee and raised his bolt pistol. "For the Emperor!" The bolt round took the creature's center mass, detonating inside its torso. But Marcus wasn't done. As the wounded beast crashed into him, driving him to the ground, he wrapped his arms around its throat and began squeezing. The Reaper thrashed wildly, claws raking across his armor, tearing through ceramite like paper. Warning runes flashed in Marcus's helmet display as his suit's systems reported critical damage. "Brother Sergeant!" Cassius rushed forward. "Stay back!" Marcus growled through gritted teeth. "This is between me and it!" The watching aliens fell silent as human and monster rolled across the ground in a death embrace. The Reaper's claws found gaps in Marcus's armor, drawing blood, but the Space Marine's grip only tightened. "Impossible," whispered the Kethvar commander. "The Reaper has the strength of 10 warriors." Captain Velthar's eyes never left the struggling figures. "Look at the human's face." Marcus's helmet had been torn away in the struggle, revealing a scarred, weathered face twisted with determination. But more than that, he was smiling. The Umbral Reaper's struggles grew weaker. Its perfect killing claws scrabbled desperately at the human's arms, but Marcus held on like a vice. Black ichor ran from the creature's mouth as its airway collapsed. With a final, wet crack, the legendary apex predator went limp. Marcus held on for another full minute before finally releasing his grip. He pushed the corpse off him and struggled to his feet, swaying slightly. His armor was a ruin of torn ceramite and exposed mechanisms. Blood ran from dozens of wounds. "Status report, brothers." "All systems operational, Brother Sergeant," Cassius replied, though his voice carried a note of surprised awe. "Ready for further engagement," Thaddeus added. The coalition forces emerged from their positions like ghosts, staring at the fallen monster that had been the stuff of nightmares across the galaxy. The Kethvar commander approached first, his usually proud bearing subdued. "Human warrior," he said slowly. "In all my years of battle, I have never witnessed such dedication to the kill." Marcus wiped blood from his mouth and shrugged. "Standard Space Marine procedure. We don't have legends on our world. We make them." Captain Velthar gestured to his troops, who began advancing on the Scran positions with hopeful, renewed confidence. "The human speaks truth. The hegemony sent their ultimate weapon, and 3 of these warriors destroyed it with conventional tactics and sheer will." "Not just will," Marcus corrected, accepting a fresh magazine from Cassius. "Faith, in the Emperor, in each other, and in the certainty that humanity endures." The avian scholar, Kretak, fluttered down from his observation post. "I must ask, how did you know you could defeat such a creature?" Marcus's scarred face split into a predatory grin. "We didn't, but on our homeworld we have a saying. Victory through superior firepower is preferable, but victory through superior stubbornness is just as effective." The final assault on the Scran hegemony positions lasted exactly 17 minutes. The coalition forces, hopeful, inspired by the Marines' example, fought with energetic ferocity. The reptilian invaders, demoralized by the loss of their ultimate weapon, broke and fled. 3 days later, as the coalition celebrated their victory, Ambassador Tess Harper found herself in an unprecedented position. 7 different species had formally requested alliance with the Imperium of Man. "It's remarkable," Kretak commented, preening his feathers nervously. "In a single engagement, you've accomplished what our diplomats failed to achieve in decades." Harper smiled, watching Marcus and his squad sharing drinks with Kethvar warriors, somehow finding common ground despite speaking entirely different languages. "That's the thing about Marines," she said. "They don't just win battles, they win hearts and minds, usually by being too stubborn to die when any reasonable person would." Captain Velthar approached, his aquatic features arranged in what passed for a happy smile. "Ambassador, I must know, are all humans like these warriors?" Harper considered the question seriously. "Not exactly. Most of us aren't 8-foot-tall, genetically enhanced super soldiers in power armor. But the core principle? The refusal to quit. The willingness to sacrifice everything for something greater than ourselves? Yeah, that's pretty universal." She gestured to where Thaddeus was attempting to teach a group of young Kethvar cubs how to clean a bolt rifle, despite the obvious language barrier. "We call it the proud human spirit. Some of our enemies call it insanity, but it's gotten us this far, and Emperor willing, it'll carry us to the stars and beyond." As the celebration continued into the night, reports filtered in from across the sector. The Scran hegemony was retreating on all fronts, their expansion halted by the shocking defeat of their ultimate weapon. More importantly, the coalition that had formed around humanity's intervention was holding. Brother Sergeant Marcus stood at the edge of the celebration, watching the unlikely mixture of species sharing food and stories. His enhanced physiology was already healing the worst of his wounds, though he'd carry the scars forever. "Regrets, Brother Sergeant?" Cassius asked, joining him. "About which part? Destroying their legendary monster? Forging an alliance that'll last centuries? Or proving that the Emperor's will extends to the furthest reaches of space? Any of it." Marcus smiled, the expression transforming his scarred features. "None whatsoever. This is what we were made for, not just to kill the Emperor's enemies, but to show the galaxy what humanity truly stands for." He raised his cup in a toast that encompassed the celebration behind them, the stars above, and the hopeful, infinite possibilities. "For the Emperor, and for all who stand with us in the darkness!" "For the Emperor," Cassius echoed. And across the galaxy, as word of the Space Marines' victory spread, a new legend began to take shape. Not of monsters and fear, but of warriors who would rather die than yield. And the allies who chose to stand beside them against the long night. The Skakran hegemony had brought their ultimate weapon. The humans had brought themselves. In the end, that had been more than enough. 5 Terran years after the Battle of Viridian Prime, Brother Captain Marcus stood before the towering memorial wall in the chapter's fortress monastery, his scarred gauntlet tracing the names of fallen battle brothers etched in adamantium. Among them, one name stood out in golden letters twice the size of the others: Brother Kalen, the Beast Breaker. "Still miss him, don't you?" came a familiar voice behind him. Marcus turned to see Commander Thessa of the Leonine Federation, now bearing the ceremonial scars of a pack sister, the highest honor their warrior culture could bestow upon an outsider. Her feline features showed the weathering of countless battles fought alongside Imperial forces.
Kalen would have called that a stupid question, Marcus replied, allowing himself a rare smile. He'd have said something like, "Missings for weaklings. I celebrate the bastard lived it all." Thessa's whiskers twitched in amusement. "Your battle brother changed everything for us, you know. The entire Galactic Council now has protocols named after that day. Kalen protocols. What to do when humans decide physics is merely a suggestion." Through the great viewing ports, they could see the bustling spaceport of New Viridian, where ships from across the galaxy came to trade and resupply. But more importantly, they came to train. The Deathworld Combat Academy had become legend, where alien warriors learned what their instructors called proud, the human way. Not just tactics and weapons, but something deeper. The acceptance that impossible odds were just another Tuesday. "The Ursine clans still sing that song about him," Thessa continued, "about the human who grabbed the devourer by the throat and whispered, 'Not today!' Their cubs learn it before they learn to hunt." Marcus nodded. In the 5 years since that battle, the galaxy had changed. The reptilian hegemony, once the terror of a dozen sectors, now gave Imperial space a wide berth. Word had spread of the mad humans who fought gods with fists and won. The insectoid swarms, after losing 3 hive queens to human pest control operations, had retreated to the galactic rim. But perhaps more importantly, the bonds forged that day had grown stronger. The Leonine Federation had provided gene samples that improved space marine healing factors by 40%. The avian scholars had helped decode ancient STCs, bringing back technologies lost during the Dark Age. The Aquatic Confederacy's bioships now served alongside Imperial Navy vessels, their organic hulls regenerating battle damage that would cripple metal ships. "There's something else," Thessa said, her tone growing serious. "The scout ships have found something in the outer dark. Something big. Something that makes the Devourer look like a pet house cat." Marcus's eyes gleamed with anticipation rather than fear. "How big are we talking?" "Continent-sized. Multiple Void Kraken-class entities, coordinated by some kind of Gestalt consciousness. The Galactic Council is calling it the Final Darkness. And they want human assistance, I assume?" Thessa's laugh was part purr, part growl. "They want more than assistance, Marcus. They want you to teach them to be like you. All of them, every species, every warrior caste, every soldier from here to the galactic core. They want to learn how to look at the impossible and say, 'Fuck it, let's go!'" Marcus turned back to the memorial wall, reading the inscription beneath Kalen's name. "He taught us that legends can die, but stupidity is eternal." "When do we ship out?" Marcus asked. "Tomorrow. The entire Leonine First Pride, 3 Ursine war clans, an avian scholar fleet, and 2 aquatic bioarmadas. Oh, and apparently the Bovine Collective is sending their Peacekeeper divisions, all 6 million of them." "And us?" Fourth company, plus 3 other chapters who volunteered. The Iron Hands are particularly excited. They want to test their new modifications against cosmic tier threats. Marcus felt the familiar warmth in his chest that came before every impossible battle.
It was the feeling that had driven humanity from a single world to half a galaxy. The feeling that made humans look at gods and ask, "You bleed, right?" Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. In Ursine war dens, pack leaders sharpened claws while singing human battle hymns. On avian scholarships, brilliant minds calculated impossible trajectories and concluded, "The humans will find a way." In the depths of aquatic worlds, bioengineers grew weapons based on human concepts. Ideas like, "What if we made it bigger?" and "Can we make it explode?" The reptilian hegemony's spy networks brought word of these preparations to their high command. For the first time in their species' history, they felt something their cold blood had never known: sympathy for their enemies. Whatever was coming from the outer dark would soon learn what the galaxy had discovered 5 years ago. Humans were not the strongest species. They weren't the smartest, the fastest, or the most advanced. But they were the only species that looked at certain death and asked not, "How do we survive this?" but, "How do we make this hurt?" And they had taught their friends to ask the same question. In the depths of space, ancient intelligences stirred, sensing the approaching storm. The final darkness began its advance toward galactic civilization, fearful, confident in its ability to consume all light, all hope, all life. It had sarcastic, no idea what it was about to face. Somewhere in the void, Brother Kalen's spirit smiled. The galaxy was about to get a lot more interesting. They brought their best monster, his ghost seemed to whisper across the stars. We brought friends.